I'm Cheri Roman from Roman Agency, Inc. in Austin, Texas. Welcome to another segment of Insurance, Death, and Taxes. Today I'm going to talk about personal umbrella policies, which we call in the insurance industry PUPs. A lot of people don't really understand umbrella policies, and so for that reason they don't get them. And it's very important in certain cases for people to have an umbrella policy. Now, what an umbrella policy does is it protects your assets and your future income if somebody would sue you and hold you negligent for either an automobile accident or say some sort of accident at your home, like somebody would jump into a shallow swimming pool and be injured or something like that. Now, your homeowner policy has liability limits, and so does your auto policy. But what happens when those limits are exhausted and somebody's injuries go beyond, say, $500,000, which maybe would be your limit on your auto policy for liability? Well, if that happens, people can actually sue you, and personal injury attorneys will get involved in that if you have assets that are not protected. Now, let me give you an example of that. Say you're on a slick road and you rear-end a mother and a child in a car, and they're both critically injured. Now, if somebody's critically injured and say they're never able to work again, or God forbid they can't walk or something, what can happen is they can come after you personally, and the insurance company is not going to pay more than the limits of the policy. An umbrella policy, if you have one, will cover you beyond the limits of your liability coverage on both your home and your auto policy. Now, how do you know if you need a personal umbrella policy? In Austin, Texas, we have a lot of students driving around. Now, students traditionally don't have a lot of assets. So in their case, they probably don't need an umbrella policy, and they don't need high liability limits on their auto policy. But if you're somebody that has, say, multiple rental properties, or some raw land that you inherited, or say your grandparents left you a bunch of stock or something, well, in that case, those assets are not protected from creditors. And if you are held liable in an accident, somebody can come after your personal assets. So you need to look at your own situation. I had a guy come into my office the other day. This is a true story. He had multiple rental properties, and he had $1 million home. He had minimum liability coverages on his auto policy. That means that the most the insurance company was going to pay for an accident that was his fault was $60,000. Now, he's just a prime target for getting sued. He needed an umbrella policy. You need to look at your own situation, and remember too that in the state of Texas, none of your creditors cannot take your homestead. That's very important. Now, in some other states, it can be different, but in Texas, they can't take your homestead. They also can't take your retirement accounts. So if most of your assets are wrapped up in your home and say in your retirement account at work, then you probably don't have any need for an umbrella policy, and you also don't probably have a need for very high liability limits. Now remember, in the state of Texas, the minimum liability limits are $30,000 per person that might be injured in an accident, up to a total of $60,000 per accident. Now, if you have other assets that are sitting around in your bank account or other properties, and you have minimum limits, you need to really look at that and consider raising your liability limits, and also look into getting an umbrella policy to protect you. If you have any questions, go to my website, cheriroman.com, or send me an email, and I'll be happy to help you and answer your questions personally. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you learned something about personal umbrella policies, or PUPs as we call them in the insurance industry. I'm Cheri Roman from Roman Agency, Inc. in Austin, Texas. Thank you.